everybody. My name is Lauren. I'm currently a pharmacy student at URI, and today I'm joined here with a really special interviewee.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kaylee Lugo. Nice to meet with you today, and thank you for letting me be a part of this.
All right, so if you would like to tell us a little bit about where you're from, when you graduated, and why you chose URI for the pharmacy program.
Yeah, so I'm actually originally born and raised in Tucson, Arizona. I actually decided to go to pharmacy school a little bit late, so my parents had already booked me a college trip, and I kind of just had this idea. I was like, I think I want to do pharmacy. So we kind of rerouted my entire college trip and changed the plans and visited all of the pharmacy programs and especially focused on the 6-year programs. So when I came to URI, I just really fell in love with the campus. I thought it was a really beautiful school. And they were also in the middle of building the new pharmacy building. So it kind of gave me reassurance that the school really believed in the pharmacy program as a whole and saw, growth and potential to make that investment. They also had the dual MBA program, which I ultimately ended up pursuing. And then on top of that, the varsity swim coach invited me to be a member of the team. So kind of all the pieces just sort of aligned, and URI was really the only option at that point.
That's so awesome. What year did you graduate? Was it?
So I graduated in 2017.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so you can get into some of the more specific questions about what you do. So what is your current role in industry?
Yeah, so my official title is Lead Manager of Scientific Information, and I work within the Medical Information and Education Department at Daiichi Sankyo, and we focus mainly in oncology.
It's awesome. And so how'd you get to doing that now? Was there anything in particular that made you interested in pursuing industry?
Yeah, so in pharmacy school, I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. I was a CVS intern for a while, and I kind of gave that a fair go, but I kind of had a feeling that that probably wasn't where I was going to end up. Actually, IPHO put on an event. Probably it was a little bit further on into pharmacy, maybe like my P3 year. And a couple of alumni of the school came and talked about roles for pharmacists within the pharmaceutical industry. And funny enough, actually, one of the people who came ultimately became one of my preceptors in the fellowship program that I pursued. So just goes to show sometimes those little events can really mean a lot. But I think that was kind of when I originally became interested in medical information. Then when I was on my rotations, I did a drug information rotation with Dr. Ward. And I really enjoyed kind of answering those more complex questions, doing the research, finding references that supported, my answers. And I think from there, I knew for sure I was either going to do a medical information fellowship or a drug information residency. When the time came, I went through the whole, mid-year experience and went through the fellowship process. And so I ultimately ended up pursuing a 2-year fellowship with Rutgers. And I was really happy that I made that decision. I think ultimately it was right for me. And it just kind of shows that, sometimes those mentors along the way can really make a difference for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I was actually going to ask you if you did a fellowship. Did you want to talk about that a little bit, what that
Yeah.
experience was like?
Yeah, so I ultimately ended up going with a smaller company up in New York called Acorda Therapeutics. They focus in neurology. So I did a 2-year broader fellowship in medical affairs, but my main focus throughout the entire thing was medical information. I think I kind of always knew that I was going to pick medical information, but it was kind of nice to explore the other areas of medical affairs as well.
Awesome. And then do you have any other certifications or degrees? I know you talked about the joint MBA program, if you want to talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, so during pharmacy school, I did go through the joint MBA program, which I feel like did kind of set me up with a different set of skills. And kind of, in MBA school, you kind of do more group projects. It's kind of just a different dynamic in general. Then when I joined the fellowship program, I stayed pretty involved with Rutgers University as an adjunct professor. I also, in my second year, became a chief fellow. And through that as well, I got a teaching and learning certificate. So basically what that entails is you go through a program, you learn how to build syllabus to ultimately run a class one day. And then I also precepted a student. So for 6 weeks, I had a Pharm.D student actually come to Acorda and kind of learn about medical information. So
That's so cool.
yeah.
I feel like I never knew so much about like other aspects of pharmacy. That's why I was like actually so excited to interview you because like I wanted to hear more about this. And like I'm also from New York City. So
Oh, really?
yeah, like it was
Cool.
actually like kind of perfect. And like Dr. Estes said that like you worked in New York City because I was like,
Yeah.
oh, like she knows that I'm from there. And I was like looking into like different career paths and stuff like that. So it's
Very
really
cool.
cool. I know Rutgers is like right by my family. Like my family lives right over there.
Awesome. What year are you in now?
I'm a P3, so I go on
Okay.
rotations in May,
Yeah.
which is crazy, so soon.
Very cool.
And so if you wanted to talk about just like a day in the life of like your current job, like what are some of like your key responsibilities and like what do you really like do throughout the day?
Yeah, so my main responsibilities are within promotional review. So I am kind of part of a core team of members. We have people from legal affairs, regulatory affairs, commercial colleagues, and we kind of come together and we review all sorts of promotional materials, training materials, anything that's like outward facing to the public. And my main role in that committee is to make sure that things are medically accurate, that references that we're using are, backing up our claims, and that everything that we're doing is in line with our FDA approved labeling. So that's really my main role every day. I'm also a preceptor for the fellowship. So I kind of always knew that I wanted to continue that sort of relationship. And I think that's just kind of the cherry on top of my job, is being able to continue that.
Awesome. So what's like your favorite part about your job?
Oh, I would say, I'm really lucky because I have a great team. I think, everyone's maybe a little bit biased in terms of who they work with, but I think coming to work every day with a team that I have really just like adds the joy to every day. But then also, the company is innovating at such a fast pace. Oncology already is fast moving, but I think our pipeline is just sort of exploding. So I think that, the people paired with the innovation really makes it awesome.
And then, so what other kind of careers exist for pharmacists in industry? Like I said, I feel like we don't get like a full exposure to everything in industry. Like I didn't even know that pharmacists did like what you do. So if you want to talk about like different career paths.
Yeah, so pharmacists are really getting involved all across the spectrum of industry at this time. There's people who work in clinical development, in regulatory affairs, in commercial. I would say probably within every sector of the industry, there's probably a pharmacist working in that department in some capacity. So it's really just dependent upon, what your interests might be, whether you want to kind of get involved in more of the clinical development side, or if you're like more of a creative person and want to do like that marketing edge. So I think really it just shows that if you don't feel like you fit into hospital pharmacy or retail pharmacy, there is other options. And it really is endless in terms of, where we can use our skill sets to help the team.
Awesome. And then a little bit on URI again. How has URI prepared you for your current role?
Yeah, so I think that the URI faculty in general is just top notch. Like I could name like multiple faculty members who have really influenced my path along the way. And I probably didn't even realize at the time, I kind of took that for granted. But I think, URI not only sets you up with the fundamentals and the basic clinical knowledge that you need to succeed, but that mentorship opportunity just goes above and beyond in terms of that. So I would just say like it was a huge risk for me leaving Arizona. But I think if I would have done it again, I would have chosen URI in a heartbeat.
And then, so what about like some of your favorite memories from URI? Like, do you have any favorite memories or like any of like favorite things that you did, clubs that you joined or anything like that?
Yeah, so I guess going back to like the faculty members, so I actually got involved in teaching barre classes and doing a lot of yoga, like kind of later into my pharmacy classes. And that's when I got really close with Dr. Estes, because we would do that on the side together. So our friendship kind of built out of that, and that was really fun. Another great memory for me was Dr. Charpentier on rotation. So it was right before mid-year when I had her rotation, and showed up there on day one. Again, I kind of knew I wasn't going to do like hospital, so I wasn't the most excited, to be honest, going in there. But I ultimately ended up meeting my husband on that rotation. So I give her a lot of credit for pairing us together. He was actually one of the residents on my team. So that's a really good memory, and we joke about that to this day. And I had mentioned that Dr. Ward is also a great mentor of mine, but whenever we get to the mid-year meeting, I always look forward to catching up with all of them.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I never would have expected that.
Yeah,
I
so
love that. And that's probably it. Did you have any any last minute things like you wanted to add in? Anything you wanted to tell like incoming students or like prospective students maybe?
I would just say like give everything a try. You never know like path you're going to take. And I would say, even if you think you're going to go one direction, it's always worth it to check other stuff off and give it a fair shot. Kind of go into like every class with a fresh mind. I ended up loving that rotation at the hospital after all, even though I thought like, it was the last place I wanted to be. So it just goes to show. And I think also just those connections that you make along the way are so important. Like, I have mentors still at URI to this day, and I look to them for advice. So I would say just take every opportunity that you can, and don't ever think that like something's not going to work out because someone's going to say like, oh, it's impossible to get a fellowship, residency is so hard. Just try to take the opportunity, and like things will always work out the way they're supposed to.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Cool.
Yeah.